Hey all, in this practical session, we'll be looking at using Operations Manager for doing monitoring of a network device as well as a server. For doing the monitoring of a network device, I'm using a software that is freely available called as the Xeon SNMP device emulator. This device emulator allows you to emulate any sort of device, for example, like a Cisco Pix firewall or a Cisco router. Uh, so when I started, I need to add an agent for it. I will add an agent for it. CN. If the service is not running, you need to start the service. It is now running. Alright. I will need to connect it to my system. 10.0.0.170 is the IP of this machine. 9090. Now click on add. After I add an agent, I need to add a device. To add a device, for example, right now, to add a device, you need to click on this simulate device option over here. Select the device which you want to add, like Cisco 2621. Select the IP address which you want to map it to. Select the SNMP settings. For example, SNMP 1 version 1, and select the simulation mode. For example, let's say I'll remove this off. Click on play. I'm going to add a Cisco router 2621. I'll click on next. I want it to run on the 170 IP address. I'm currently running this software on my domain controller, on which I've added two IP addresses, that is .1 and .170. I'll click on next. I want it to have used the SNMP version 1, and I'll click on finish. So the moment it loads up, it'll start showing up over here, where on the right hand side show different properties for the device. Alright, so I have my network based device ready, and which is running on .170 IP address. Now what I'll do is I will now come into my operation manager server. Yes, before going further, for this practical you require an operation manager server. You also require connectivity with the virtual machine manager server. I am doing the monitoring on top of my domain controller, onto which I've also inserted the device emulator. When I come into operations manager, this is the basic interface I will get. I will need to go into administration. When I go into administration, I will need to do a discovery. Let's say I'll be doing a discovery for both my Windows server as well as for my network device. So I'll click on discovery wizard. Let's say I'll be doing the discovery for my Windows server first. I'll be making sure servants and clients and my manual server selected. I'll click on configure and give some few letters of my server, CDC, okay, and I'll specify another account. I'll specify my administrative credentials, and I'll click on discover. The moment I click on discover, it'll show me different devices which I want to manage. When I select a device, it'll give me an option: do I want to manage with agent or agentless. When I select agent mode, it'll install an agent software onto that server. uh, Installation of agent software will result in me getting much more better, accurate monitoring results, but it'll have some sort of little load on top of the server. Whereas agentless will be not installing any sort of software on that server, but the results may or not be that much accurate. I'll click on next. Preferred credentials, I'll select other. On that machine I already have my domain users and domain admin groups mapped to my local system administrators. So I'll just specify my credentials again for my domain administrator account. The agent for the micro monitoring is installed into program files, micro monitoring agent, and I'll finally click on finish. When I click on finish, it starts the task where it starts installing of the agent onto that server. If this is the first time you're doing this step, uh, it'll take some amount of time, maybe around 5 or 10 minutes. I previously installed the agent onto my SCDC server, so right now when I'm doing this task, it will not take that much of a longer time for doing this, for discovering my server and adding my server into my operation manager. What I'll do, I'll just close this and let this run in the background. Now I'll also do a discovery for my SNMP device. I'll click on discovery wizard. This time I'll select network devices and I'll click on next. Let's say I'm giving it a discovery with Cisco routers. I will select my network management server SCOM and I'll click on next. I want to do an explicit discovery. I already created a runner's account which is having a public string for SNMP1 and SMP2. I will select add and I'll specify my device over here, 10.0.0.170. ICMP and SNMP version 1 and version 2 of SNMP using 161, which is the port number by default. I'll click on next. This is for the scheduling of discovery. I'll click on next. Cisco routers, runners account public, discovery method explicit, number devices specified 1, and scheduled runners. I'll just click on create. It'll create the discovery rule, and when the discovery rule has been created, it'll then give me an option whether I want to run the network discovery rule. So if this is tick mark, the moment I click on close, it'll start doing the network discovery. If I right click and refresh here, it'll show me that the rule is present and the status is pending. If I go into device management and agents managed, it is now showing me my SCDC domain control. It has detected my SCDC domain controller and it has performed different tasks on top of it to return the state of my domain controller. I can right click on top of this, I can go to the open option and I can view different views of it. If I go into event view, will show me any sort of events that have been generated on that machine. For example, right now I can see that there is this event, a warning event for the micro audit collection services rule being generated over there. If I see the previous event, I can see the health service error message is being thrown, which was thrown around the 19th of May. If you see right hand side, I can perform different tasks. I can disable audit collection and I can enable audit collection. I can even ping the domain controller and I can see the entire ping displayed over here. I can even do a remote desktop to that machine and see and do a remote control of it. I can also go into open and I can go into state view. If I go into state view, it'll show me the health state of that server, where I can see that the agent state is healthy. If I want, I can start the maintenance mode on top of that machine. If I want, I can even flush the health state and let it reload. I can even go into the performance view and do a mapping of different performance based metrics on a graph. Right. So if you see down below, I have different counters. I have a counter for system uptime. I have a counter for uh, processor. I have different counters over here. So I can tick mark these counters and I can plot all of them on a graph. I can right click, I can even do a refresh. If I want, I can even personalize a selected time range. So I've currently plotted a counter called as agent processor, which is somewhere around showing me a value of 1, which was somewhere around 10 minutes ago, to somewhere it's around a value of 0 right now. If I want, I can even open more different views of this. By going into open, I can even have a diagrammatic view. A diagrammatic view will give me sort of breakdown of what is present inside my SCDC. I can see a system center type of forwarding service. This is the properties of the server to run to a data center. I can see the build number, service pack. I can even see the health service properties. If I want, I can even collapse this back or expand this. I can even go to the Health Explorer, which will give me the entire health of that machine. So it'll tell me what is summary, what is cause, and any sort of resolution. If I go to state change events, I can see different events of how I can see the different what you can see. I can see the state changes. Like if I can see over here, I can see the state change from a normal gray to a healthy system. I can see that on 19 there was a warning which went to healthy. If I want, I can recalculate the health, or I can even reset the health. If I have done an agentless installation, it would show up under agentless manage. Let's go back to discovery rules and let me just refresh this and see if you can see it is now showing me a last discovered as 1, meaning it has now discovered a device. If I go on network device and refresh this, you can see it is now showing me a device with an IP address that is 170, meaning it has detected my SNMP Cisco based router. If I go to properties, I can see that it has picked up information about it, that it has picked up information that it is a Cisco 2600 router. It is a 2621 router which is using SNMP on port number 161, and it is using SNMP version number 2. For monitoring, I can go into the monitoring tab. I can see different alerts here in detail. Active alerts will show me the current different sort of alerts running right now. If I go to discovered inventory, it will show me different machine that have been discovered. If I scroll down some more, I can go to Windows Server and I can see different operating systems performance. I can even see Windows Server state or active alerts. For example, we've been working with network monitoring, so I'll go into the network monitoring. I can see any sort of active alerts for network monitoring. I can see the different network devices. For example, it has found my 2621 Cisco router. I can right click on top of this, I can open, I can do a health explorer, I can see the state change events for this as well. I can even open a performance view. Depending upon the uh, router device, your operation manager may or may not detect the different counters for it. For example, I can see the percentage processor time. I can have free memory percentage. I can have different. I can have a ICMP ping response, and I can plot the entire thing once again over here. So I know the ping was somewhere around 3, which dropped to a ping response was around somewhere 3. I believe it is 3 millisecond to 0.5. I can even view a network node dashboard for it. Which is, so I can see that what is the uptime, what is the vicinity view of it. If there are any other network device connected to it, I will be able to see the different network devices also which are connected to it. I can see what is the availability. I can see that it is having 98.90% availability. I can see what is the availability in the previous 7 days. I can see much more detailed information about this. I can see what is the health of the interfaces as well, the different interface sending and receiving part of it. I can go into network summary dashboard and I can see that the average response time is 0.6. I can see what is CPU is at 7%. I can do a ping, I can do a trace route, I can even do an SNMP get to get the different SNMP detail of that device. So this is the OID of that device. If I go into routers, router will show me different routers of this system over there. If I go into performance, performance will give me different performance charts, free memory, percentages. I can go to ICMP ping response time. I can see the entire ping response has altered and it has gone to around 8 milliseconds, dropped down and it's come to around 0. I can see the interface usage statistics. Uh, see, I can see port usage statistics. I can see processor utilization. I can see that this system processors utilization is hovering between 5%. It's hovering between 5% to somewhere around 7%. I can do more fine tuning in this. If any network devices are pending management, it starts showing up under network devices management. I can have notifications configured. Notifications will allow me to have, like, if any alert happens, I can send maybe by an SMS or maybe by an email message. If I go to runners configuration, I can specify different runners configuration accounts. User roles will have different user roles. If I go into settings, I can do different settings. I can configure my heartbeat value, the heartbeat interval to be less than 60 seconds or maybe more than 60 seconds. I can even configure different alerts. I can see configure different states, resolution state, and specify different ID values for it. Database grooming, I can configure different database grooming settings for it, that if different records are older than 7 days, they should be deleted. I can configure privacy option. I can even configure different security objects. If someone installs the agent manually on the system by copying and pasting the agent installation files, that is system center, operations manager, server. This agent management folder contains the different agents, where if I copy and paste this entire folder, I can double click on the agent file and run on a system. Because this will be a manual installation, the agent that server will not come up into my agents manager over here. It'll start showing up under pending management, where I will need to right click on top of it, and I will need to then approve or reject the device. For the next part of this practical, I require to connect my virtual machine manager server to my operation manager server. For that, I need to go into my virtual machine manager's setting section. Inside setting, there will be a system setting. There will be a system setting, which there will be an operation manager setting options. The moment I double click on operation manager settings, it'll give me this brief introduction. If you look at brief introduction, it gives me some prerequisites necessary. For example, on my virtual machine manager server, I also require the operation manager console to be installed. Similarly, inside of my operation manager server or SCOM, I require to have 4 management packs installed. That is my SQL Server Core library, Windows Server IS library, Windows Server IS 2003, and Windows Server 2008 IS7 library. If these management packs as well as the operations console is not installed, this process will fail. I'll click next, and I need to specify the server name. Of my operation manager. I will then give my administrative account, which is accessible from operation manager, and then I shall then confirm the settings and click on finish to start the connection. The connection will take time to complete. Once the connection is done, this part and the entire practical is finished.